Timelang and welcome back to another epic episode of The Unspoken Truth. I am Itisu Mutsawa, your host, Woman Video, all the way from Limpopo, and thank you so much for joining me on our first edition of the 2021 episode. So, February is themed a month of love, and I am joined by a man that I personally call the king of the love jungle. His name is Leroy Tau, and he's an author of a book that broke the internet titled Confession of a Broken Man. He's also a reputable public speaker and a businessman.
King of
King of the love jungle.
King of the Love Jungle.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna start using it.
And then you better mention
I
me.
will, yes.
Ne?
I'll give props for it.
Now. So Leroy, you decided to speak about love. But a hater. I saw it on Twitter about a hater. But a hater. Why love? Of all the things, why love?
I think, like it or not, we are all affected, infected by love. Whether we have a love-hate relationship with love.
Love-hate relationship with love.
Yeah. So it's a love-hate type of a situation, depending on the experiences we've accumulated. And the funny thing is, when we grew up, we didn't. We had our vision of love was pure before it got tainted, molested, and raped by the experiences that we encountered. Your first heartbreak, your second heartbreak, or your third heartbreak. And the fourth heartbreak you didn't see coming because you thought you were wiser than the other three times.
I can experience is the best teacher.
But now you realize that the heartbreakers get wiser with time as well. Because even wrong people have learned the art of saying the right things.
Sorry. So, even the heartbreakers
Even on the other side of
get
the spectrum,
better
with time.
with time.
Yes, because the language of manipulation gets better. They get better at the art of doing it. So the common thing that we all have as human beings, whether you are Hispanic, Chinese, blue, black, green, yellow, purple, is love. Whether born, we all have this concept of a happily ever after. Hence I say we have a love-hate relationship with love.
But when you say we have this perfect image or imagination of what love is, do you think if love was projected differently, even on social media, for instance, because usually we kind of consume that idea from what we see and what we read. Do you think if it was set as raw as it is in real life, it would still be attractive?
It will still be attractive because maybe the question we need to ask is, can we still find true love?
What is true love?
But we can't answer that question without asking the second question.
We can't move to the second
No.
question.
The basis of the answer of the first question, because everyone is seeking for true love, right? Or
That's why I call it the jungle.
The majority of people are seeking for true love. But now you need to realize that you can't have true love without having true, authentic individuals. So the problem is not the concept of love. The problem is the professors of love. Those that say I love you and those that say I love you too, the problem is found with them. Because if we can't find any truth in the one that's saying I love you, and we can't find any truth in the one that's saying I love you too, then can we find true love?
But then what I hear from what you're saying is that there's absolutely nothing wrong with love, but there is something disturbing or wrong with the ones that are saying it and those that are responding to
Yes.
it. So, are you trying to say that there's a problem with human beings? Because personally, when I'm trying to find and define love, for me the first thing that comes is God is love, and I'm still trying to figure out who is God, because now at the same time God is different things to all of us.
Yes, for sure.
Right? So now it seems like nobody's even written a better definition of what love is. We don't know the color of love. We just think it's red. I mean, look at me today. Because it's Valentines, I'm thinking that when I'm red and white, I'm automatically in love. So what is love? And how do I know that I have dealt with me in a way that I can now capacitate love and give it?
For me, it's you mentioned God. If there's one thing, whether you are sure of God or unsure of God, if there's one thing that you are truly sure of is that He loves you the way you are, and He loves you for you. And if there's anything that you can guarantee is that your flaws, your mistakes, and everything well put together, God accepts and loves you the way you are. So what happens mostly, for example, I take you out on a date, we meet for the first time, I take you out on a date and we go out. You're sitting on the other side of the table, I'm sitting on the other side of the table, you looking as stunning as you are. The reality of the matter is that I'm looking at the presentation that is presented before me. And then from a perceived perception point of view, I feel the pressure to match the standard of presentation. So instead of you and I being honest and open about who we really are, we start selling each other illusions.
Okay.
So now, because I want to win you in, then I sell you an idealistic of who Leroy is. But Leroy is still becoming that person. Leroy is not that person.
Okay, so you sell me the future you.
An illusion.
An illusion.
We are both meeting at the point of a date, but we are both trying to impress one another.
Okay, I get what you're saying. And I remember in one of your posts, you spoke something about how the past, I'm coming to the date, how the past has wounded us and left us with scars psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. Are you saying that at that first date, I'm supposed to now become very transparent about my life to you, a guy that somehow I looked at the physical part of him and I got attracted to, and I'm trying to get to know him, and I must just simply tell him about all that so that it can be an authentic me?
The toning down of where we come from when we first meet people is what creates an illusion. So now I start falling in love with you thinking, oh, this is all there is to you. Now I don't realize, or it comes from a yesterday, which is a past we met today. So just because I'm meeting you today doesn't negate the fact that you come from a past that has a whole lot of issues inside of it. And now I'm going to live with this person. I'm taking this person home. So now the question is, what is it that I'm really taking home now? Am I gonna get shocked a month later now when you say, for example, a lot of men don't disclose the fact that they have kids. An environmental change does not mean a psychological change.
Okay.
For example, if you are a 2 million that's reckless in Pretoria.
If I'm going to be telling you my past and the things that I don't publicly just put out there and tell everybody, I need to understand that firstly I'm safe, that information is safe with you, and that you are not going to use it against me. You get what I'm saying? And in the first, we're going to get to the period in terms of knowing what okay, and after how long do I then say, I was actually raped, or I have financial issues. Because when I say that in the first date, the first thing that comes to mind to the person that you are telling is this person is maybe reckless with money. You understand? Or I could say to you, but now on your side you might be receiving it as reckless. You understand? I have to, as much as I want to be honest and present myself as honest as possible, I still need to reserve certain information until I understand your intentions about want to be with me.
Unfortunately, the reality of the matter is I can reserve whatever I reserve until I see intent. But unfortunately, by the time you see intent, you have already fallen in love with this person, and then truth of who you are comes later. Then it means the totality of who I thought you were gets challenged at that particular moment in time. Personal, and I'm not saying this as a prescription, so I'm not saying people must do this. Personal, now I would rather tell you everything that I need to tell you. At the inception.
Everything that you need to tell me.
Yes, at the inception. Well, if I have 10 kids, I'll tell you I have 10 kids.
But what if I'm more interested in something else? You telling me what you think I need to know, what you think is what I want to know.
Let's first define dating. Dating is the collection of data. So by the time you say you love somebody, it means you have successfully assessed who they are, whether be it from a brief conversation or from, because let's shy away from perception, because we have a tendency of making decisions because we perceive that he's a good person, we perceive that she's a good person, but we have not sat down to try to outsource or pila who is taking do you still have a relationship with your parents? How were things, if your parents are late, how were things between you and your dad? The responses give you more insight about who the person is. I mean, if you're talking to a person and they say, and then we're talking about their father, you don't tell me about that person. It automatically shows you are dealing with an unforgiving individual, despite of the circumstances. You understand? Because now you are 40 years old, or 35 years old, or 30 years old, but you are still responding to an event like you are 12 years old. So the emotions are still as intense as they were 28 years ago, which is an issue. So now, this is a person that you're going to be with. If they can't get along with blood, how then do you think?
But now, I get what you're saying. At the same time, as human beings, we evolve, we grow, we change, we adapt to new things and new habits. How does one know that, you know what, I have dealt with my past and I am ready to mingle?
Reality is, for as long as when you think about your yesterday, it does not evoke negative emotion in you. It shows you that you have successfully dealt with your issues. If the name of your ex is brought up now from a random conversation, how then do you respond to hearing that? If you bump into them at the mall, the negative, does this individual still elicit negative emotions in you? Because if they still do, it means you have not really dealt with that.
Leroy, there are some things that people do to you that even if you have dealt with, it will still have that effect on you.
A scar must only remind you of the occasion that brought the scar. But if the scar is still painful and it's reminding you of the occasion, then you have not really healed. Unfortunately.
So, let forward.
Yeah. Because you have scars. But when you look at it, it's just a memory that does not have the attachment of emotion to it. So the problem is that we are quick to live out the pain experience by attaching ourselves to something new. So there's the planning process of the relationship where we put our energy to. There's the phase where we need to build each other and come to a place where we are best friends. It is ludicrous. I mean, how do you hide a whole human being? And then the first thing that you would say to me is, but why didn't you tell me?
Yes.
When? The first time
we met.
Exactly. So now, if I fail to open up about where I am financially, where I am in terms of goal orientation, where I have been through in terms of upbringing experiences and all of these things, you are falling in love with something that you don't have the capacity to maintain, because everything that I'm not disclosing is everything that you have to deal with. It's easy to love a well put together. Remember, human beings are like a 5-rand coin. You have this side and you have this side.
Yeah.
You understand? And we cannot, for example, if you have been raped, and you have that traumatic, you come from that traumatic experience.
Yeah.
One day we're sitting down on this beautiful couch and we're watching a movie, and you have not told me about the experiences you encountered while growing up. And then we watch that I Spit on Your Grave movie where a girl gets abducted and then gets randomly raped every day. You understand? And here I am, your boyfriend, who's supposed to protect you not only from a physical point of view, emotionally, psychologically, and all of these things. The popcorn, you should do their popcorning. And this happens and I say, Maranaya guy. Remember, I'm saying it innocently, but immediately when that scene happens, it automatically takes you back to that place.
To that scene.
You understand? So by disclosing where we come from and the things that I'm not saying be explicit about them, but give a person an idea of who you really are. Because remember, the woman that you have become today is made out of these experiences, and whether you like it or not, they still come back to haunt you.
I get what you're saying, but my issue is,
so just because you moved environments, it doesn't mean you have dealt the
I've
same
adapted
psyche.
to the new environment.
Yes. So that's what we do. We move from relationship A to relationship.
I get about it. For you to get over one person, you must get on top of another. I
have never. I don't know who's the author of those words.
Unknown.
Maybe we must sit them down here and they explain.
And they explain. But that's very interesting. You know, a change of environment doesn't mean a change of a psychological state of mind.
Yeah.
Okay. But now, in relationships, there's this thing called expectations. Right? How do I, after that first date, after we've spoken, after I've collected enough data about you, how do I then project my expectations of a relationship to you without sounding self-serving?
I get it. You collect the data and then you make a decision that I'm okay with where he comes from. I'm okay with how much he makes, or I'm okay with how much he doesn't make. I'm okay with where he is. I'm okay with his goals. I've assessed already. He has the capacity to produce results. Because what I'm buying, you know what passion is, record. But nonetheless, that's a conversation for another day. Expectation. I personally think that there's nothing wrong with expectations. And there's no such thing as high expectations or low expectations. Expectations are expectations. The ability to project your expectations and put them on the table does not mean you expect them to happen immediately. It just means, for example, if you say to me, nah, I don't date a man for 6 months. I see. So, meaning so already it gives you an insight over it. You have 6 months
to date me.
You have 6 months to date me. After 6 months, this thing of expire if there is no intent of marriage. Some people can say that. You understand? So now, if you are a thinking individual or a thinking partner, you take what they are saying, you sit them down, babe, it's fine. I don't have a problem with you and I getting married in the next coming 6 months, but are we in a position to make it happen? If not, what is it that we can do to get ourselves to that place? And then somebody would say, not in a relationship, after a year, we must have bought a house somewhere. It's okay. It's a good expectation. So can we sit down and assess whether or not you and I have the capacity to reach this level of expectation, or can we have smaller victories that build towards that big expectation? So immediately when people start hearing things, because they gauge themselves and the expectation and they realize or not, the expectation is beyond my capacity to maintain, then they start calling people names. Yes, and there's nothing wrong with the person saying, when I remember I dated somebody that said, you better make sure that in 2 years' time we have a Lamborghini. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with people being that ambitious on that level. You understand? But the issue is, do we have the capacity to build towards that?
And also, the person that is having the same expectations, do they have the capacity themselves to get themselves there?
That is why you state your expectation. So what do you expect from me? You put it on the table. What do you expect from me? You put it on the table. If we are in a relationship to build, we are going to dissect those expectations, break them down, and then give ourselves a task. Because another thing that messes up relationships is that we date without a purpose.
But I'm also a little bit against that. There's what we call fun in a relationship. Apparently all this planning, I did project management at school, right? And I understand when you're planning, you put down all the constraints. You want to make sure that, you know what, you deal with everything that is going to distract that. And the fun part of it, it just starts becoming a job. It's not fun anymore. It's not spontaneous, as they say, anymore. You become like a boring couple. It's like, everything must be like this. By 6 months we must be here. Isn't it taking out the fun part of it, being in a relationship?
Inside of you, there's a sister, there's an aunt, there's a mother, there's a friend, there's a cousin, there's an aunt. And potentially in a couple of years,
There's a what?
a grandmother, a wife is coming out. So human beings are multifaceted by their design,
Okay.
right? You can successfully be a wife without losing your identity as the meaning you can successfully be a best friend to somebody without losing your identity as it. I believe that the first 3 months of a relationship is foundation phase situation. So everything goes into the foundation.
So what happens during the foundation phase?
That's the process where you intensely get to know people, study their mood swings, behaviors, what they like, what they don't want, what their aspirations as they evolve. Because either 3 things are going to happen. You are either growing with the person, or you are outgrowing the person, or the person is outgrowing you, or you are being outgrown by the relationship.
What do you mean by being outgrown by the relationship?
The relationship will take form whether or not you're putting effort into it. That is why that's when you start saying things like, that means the relationship is there, you are here. So there's no, we call it we call it relationship. So the relation in the ship no longer relates. So it's like the ship is there, we are here. But so we can't even relate to get into the ship. So the idea here is that you and I are no longer connecting. That's how we lost the spark. The chemistry is no longer, and that's what inspires others to go back to their options and all of these things. But when you intensely grow together in a relationship, you grow the relationship. But when you outgrow me, meaning I'm here watching TV while you are pushing, you are studying, you are going to gym, you are hustling, you are pushing. Now I'm sitting on the couch. Automatically, whether nature is going to take its course, you are going to outgrow me in the relationship. So meaning, because immediately when you read a lot, we don't the language is no longer the same. You know,
yeah.
when you are out there pushing and chasing invoices, when are we getting paid? When is the next project? And so things that excite you and spark up you and spark up your energy levels. You come back home, you can't even talk to me about how your day was because I'm out of tune with everything that you come back home with.
Yeah.
So the reality is you're going to find somebody who's within the same wavelength as you, and then they start saying people are cheating. But the reality, sometimes we create the opportunity for cheating because instead of you got together with someone and they told you from the onset, this is the kind of woman I am. So they either love you from a purpose level, or they love you from a physical level, or they love you from an emotional level. But somebody who really loves you is one who's able to identify these 3 levels.
People, as they evolve, you also start discovering your purpose. You also start changing, and things that were maybe interesting in the beginning of the relationship, now they do not interest you anymore. When we built a relationship, for instance, we were comfortable, both of us saying, we're going to have a house, we go Mami Lodi, stay there, like a Corolla, and then have 3 kids.
Yeah.
At that time, maybe I'm just...
So when I was a boy, there was a man inside of me, which was being cultivated every day. So I'm slowly becoming that man that was inside of me.
Yeah.
So the boy that encapsulated the man is now the man is encapsulating the boy.
Yeah.
So that is why you will never outgrow your boyish tendencies. You can only regulate them. So there are certain men who the boy is in control of the man instead of the man being in control of the boy.
Yeah.
So now, inside of me, though I'm this man in front of you, but there's still a boy in me. There's still that leseho that will ask for nudes randomly, and those are boyish kind of things. I wish I could do you, whatever. Those are boy things. But when the man in me speaking to you, we're talking direction, we're talking structure, we're talking, we start having uncomfortable conversations. You are coming with kids, I'm coming with kids. How are we going to raise the kids? How are we going to deal with the kids? Okay, I move out of my house, move into yours, you move out of or you move out of yours, you move into mine. How is the dynamics of our lifestyle going to be? Remember, there's a difference when we're in a relationship and you're staying at your place and I'm staying at my place. Chances of that relationship surviving longer is very high. But the relationship is truly tested when we are in the same space.
When you start unpacking that spoken
issues. So we can call the boy in me the hormonal one, that just, the freaky one, the fun one. Okay, when are we going out? Can we go to a strip club? That's it, it's mostly spontaneous fun things. But when you start addressing the men we start talking structure, building. But vision is everything that holds everything else, because inside of me there's purpose, and that is the whole reason why I am here. So if you are going to be in a relationship with me and you don't get me at my primary level,
Which is
the
your purpose.
thing, yes, the original intent of why I was created, this relationship is not going to last anyway. Either you're going to suffocate my calling and I'm going to be frustrated and I'm going to in turn be bitter towards you.
Present me, yeah. But now, when you're talking about purpose and all these levels in a relationship, a girl who never even went to school, I'm going to talk from a girl perspective.
Yes.
Then I start attending women empowerment events hosted by Itusu and Sisters Keepers. And they speak about you need to be self-driven, go to school, study, grow yourself. And then I come back, I'm like, baby, I want to go to school. Now, this is not the woman you married.
Yes.
Now, the structure of how we both build a relationship starts changing. How do I then bring you into this new world of mine? And how do I then not suffocate you with the new changes? Because now there's going to be a time where you're going to have to stay home with the kids and I'm out working. You're going to come back from your meetings because you are a hustler and there's no meal prepared because I'm also trying to work or study.
Yeah.
Those kind of things, they frustrate me because it seems as if we're going to get to a point we're going to say, no, Leroy changed. And is it changing or it's evolving?
It's evolving.
But then how do you incorporate that into a relationship?
The reality is anything that we don't know how to define, we crucify.
Alright.
We say he changed, and then in what sense? No. And then we say, okay, did he change for the better or did he change for the? I mean, he speaks better English now, wouldn't you say? Yeah, he speaks. And remember when I said we are either going to grow together or the other one is going to outgrow the other one, or the relationship is going to outgrow the both of us. The reality is that if there's no constant commitment, it's just that we find it difficult to talk about uncomfortable things, when if that's why now I say let's shy away from people who are lazy at bettering themselves, because if you are a driven individual, though you don't have the resources to become that thing, but that thing is in you. And then you see it everywhere. When you watch TV, you see it. When you talk to people, you hear it.
Yeah.
And then if you come back home to a partner that does not recognize it, it becomes a problem. Because they're gonna use it against you, or they're gonna stop you from becoming it. Because they don't see a need for them to become better people. So the conversations that we have in a relationship purely indicate where the person sees themselves. For example, if a person is not passionate about anything, there's nothing wrong about that. And when you allow yourself to be in a relationship with that individual, you must be at peace with the fact that they might be like that until they die.